LFP or NMC? And what do they even mean? I've had questions about this, and I'm going to try my best to explain the answer in a way that anybody who has an interest in electric vehicles can understand. I'll show you the benefits of both, what you have to sacrifice to get those benefits, and why each chemistry was chosen for each use case. Very quickly, the Fisker Ocean has two types of batteries available. A 75 kilowatt hour usable lithium iron phosphate pack that is only going to be offered on the front-wheel drive Ocean Sport model, or a 106 kilowatt hour usable nickel manganese cobalt pack available in all of the all-wheel drive trims of the Ocean, the Ultra, the Extreme, and the limited edition Fisker Ocean 1. All of these battery packs are manufactured by CATL. One offers just over 250 miles of range, the other, on the all-wheel drive trims, offers just above or below 350 miles of range, making it the longest range vehicle in its class in most markets. So let's talk batteries. We'll do pros from an Ocean 1 owner's perspective for the NMC pack, and then we can do pros from a sport owner's perspective with the lithium iron phosphate or LFP pack. But first, let's look at a real-world comparison. You're a health nut and you want to work out all afternoon. This afternoon, because it's the only time you have available today. You've got a big project due for work and you know it's going to be a long night, even after you get the kids to bed. And you know that you're going to get hungry during this workout. You've got two meals available: a spinach salad with candied walnuts and ranch dressing, or a Cliff Bar. Both meals have the same number of calories, and the vitamin and mineral levels are near enough as makes no matter, but the protein and carbohydrate levels are higher in the Cliff Bar. The Cliff Bar costs a little more, but in order to prepare the salad, you're gonna need 10 to 15 minutes to prepare and eat it, whereas the Cliff Bar takes just a minute to open and devour. And that's as close to a real-world example of the difference between these batteries that I can think of. Now let's actually look at the batteries. I'm a Fisker Ocean 1 owner. Why does my battery have nickel manganese cobalt, or lithium nickel manganese cobalt oxide, for all intents and purposes? The lithium nickel manganese cobalt cells have higher energy density. That means they can charge faster. Also, because there's more energy per liter and per kilogram, basically more energy can fit in a smaller space, allowing for more total energy and more range. Also, more energy means more volts. Let me show you. Here's an NMC cell and an LFP cell beside each other. Notice the NMC cell has higher voltage. That means more, well,
can I get a more power, baby? A more power, baby! Testify! A more power!
Also, NMC chemistry overall performs better when it's cold, allowing for faster and more reliable charging in cold weather, as well as better cold weather performance. The LFP cells that will be in the Fisker Ocean are in blue on this chart, and an NMC cell example is the gray. The red represents a thermally managed lithium iron phosphate cell. But when you're starting a trip and your vehicle has been sitting overnight, the blue and gray are what you can expect. So if you live in a colder climate or don't park your car indoors, this is definitely something to consider. So, faster charging, better cold weather performance, better performance overall because of more energy density, and of course, more range. Now we can look at lithium iron phosphate, which is the chemistry of the battery in the sport trim of the Ocean. You may think, wait, NMC charges faster, especially in cold weather, has better performance, more range, and what could a lithium iron phosphate cell actually offer? First, you can and should charge a lithium iron phosphate battery to 100% on a daily basis. And this is tough to explain, but here's a really confusing low-res chart. Those always help, right? Notice the lithium iron phosphate voltage remains fairly constant throughout the entire discharge cycle. Oh man, this is really complex. Hold on a minute. Okay, we'll come back to that.
Doesn't make any sense.
Remember, 100% charges. Next, lithium iron phosphate is safer, and maybe this will help the 100% thing make more sense. Remember I showed you those voltages? That's actually a video. It's called the nail puncture test. Let's see what happens to each type of cell side by side in real time when they're punctured with a nail. And I could go into hours of detail on the why. But essentially it's called thermal runaway, which is explained very beautifully and simply in this photo. But the how is enough for this video. Here's another example. And it's kind of for this reason that we don't charge NMC packs to 100% daily. Will charging to 100% blow up your vehicle? No. But there's a higher probability of degradation. Essentially, the chemistry in that cell doesn't like to sit at 100%. And let's be clear, I'm super simplifying this. And if you want to know more, I'll link a video that I used as reference to make this video right here. And I may have caused some concern with what I just presented, so it's probably a good time to show you this.
Electric cars are much less likely to catch fire than an internal combustion engine car. Sweden has 40% of all cars sold in May of this year were pure electric cars. So in Sweden, they have almost 4.4 million cars on the road in Sweden. 611,000 of them are electric. And of those 611,000 cars, last year, 23 of them caught fire. But 3,400 cars also caught fire that were petrol. Okay, so we need to look at this as a percentage. There were 0.004% of the electric cars caught fire last year, and 0.08% of ICE cars caught fire. So that means electric cars were 20 times less likely to catch fire than an ICE car. I'll say that again. 20 times less likely to catch fire than an ICE car. And another thing that's really interesting, in the last 3 years in Sweden, electric cars have doubled, if you like, in number. But the number of electric car fires has stayed the same, on average around about 20.
Okay, that said, remember those voltages? The NMC batteries have that higher voltage, which packs more punch, but it also means the voltages vary more. Here's another low-res chart. The fact that NMC batteries do vary in voltage much more makes the charge rate of an NMC cell easier to calculate. However, the percentage charge of a lithium iron phosphate cell is much harder to look at, especially in certain situations. If you're towards the middle, is it 40% or is it 60%? And that's really why you want to charge to 100% every day. Your BMS, or battery management system, has something to reference, because if you start full, then your battery management system has the best chance of making an accurate reading. With NMC, it's quite different. Fisker and Tesla and many other manufacturers recommends that you charge your car only to 80% on a daily basis when NMC chemistry is in use, or Tesla's chemistry, NCA. So on a daily basis, your lithium iron phosphate cell should be charged to 100, and 80 is probably the best and most optimal way to store your vehicle if it has NMC cells. Let's do some more quick math while we're at it. If you have 350 miles of range and you take 80% of it, you're at 280 miles of range, which is only 30 miles more than the sport trim for daily driving. And that brings me to the next pro of the sport model's LFP chemistry, and that's cycle life. And you know what that means? It's time for another low-res chart. These are cycle life, or equivalent fuel cycle measurements, for the three major battery chemistries in electric vehicles. Lithium iron phosphate, illustrated in blue, lithium nickel manganese cobalt, illustrated in black, and lithium cobalt aluminum oxide, illustrated in red. The lithium iron phosphate, because of its more stable properties, can outlast NMC in number of cycles before the end of its useful life, which is considered about 20% degradation or 80% remaining capacity. But there's another trade-off that comes with this, and that's mass.
Whoa, this is heavy. There's that word again, heavy.
Lithium iron phosphate cells weigh more because of their chemistry and the elements that make up the cells. That means the cells need to be more numerous and create more weight to provide the same amount of range. So if I get the question, well, the Sport has less range, so it has to be lighter, that's not necessarily true, even though in this case it actually is. But remember, the Sport doesn't have a rear motor and all of the hardware that comes along with that. So it's not just the battery that's different in the Sport model. There's other hardware that's just not installed. Finally, Fisker wants to build the most sustainable vehicle, so the final pro for the lithium iron phosphate pack is the fact that it's iron phosphate. And iron is an extremely abundant element, about 700 times more abundant and approximately 100 times more available than nickel, which is the main element in a nickel manganese cobalt cell. Also, cobalt, which is used in gasoline refining, and also in the NMC cells is not present in lithium iron phosphate batteries. All this makes the lithium iron phosphate cells overall cheaper as far as raw materials are concerned. So let's put it all together. You could do the salad. It's from more sustainable resources, but if you did, you wouldn't be able to finish your workout. The Cliff Bar will give you more energy and stamina, and won't take but a minute to eat. Also, because of the science of the Cliff Bar, it's been engineered to deliver energy immediately and help you reserve some for later, whereas that's really hard to calculate in the salad. All-wheel drive EVs need energy-dense batteries. Fast charging requires it too, especially at low charge rates. Cold weather performance is a must for millions of people, and range anxiety is real, especially for first-time EV owners. So why did I choose the Sport? First of all, I'm not a first-time EV owner, and I don't need all-wheel drive. Also, 100% of the long trips I take are not time sensitive, so charging time isn't really going to bother me too much. I've owned an EV with big power, and I've realized that I use it way less frequently than I thought I would. I have a convenient place to charge, and it's in a warm garage, which means I do 99% of my charging at home. Finally, I'm a fan of sustainable transportation, and I know that the lithium iron phosphate pack can go up to 1,000,000 miles in basically any situation where it's not damaged. What did I sacrifice? Well,
Are you serious, dude? More power, baby!
big range, all-wheel drive, fast charging, and cold weather performance. So, which is for you? That's your question to answer. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Check out my Ocean test drive right here and the comments from that right here, which is also pretty interesting. Subscribe for more. We'll see you next time.
Hey! Smash the like button!
Thank you.